Thank you very much, Dan. We indeed have received this report as like everybody yesterday, a very detailed, lengthy report. We note the seriousness of the issues that are being raised by the public protector. It will be critical that we also, because we hear that the presidency is going to respond, government is going to respond. There are areas of great concern that are appearing, particularly from how the officials in government have managed the whole issue, how government ministers have also managed the issue as raised by the public protector. And I think we cannot ignore those areas. But also, we are interested to get the response of the Office of the President on the areas. But what is encouraging, though, is the fact that areas where people have been saying the president has fed himself on the taxpayers' money and has upgraded his homestead at the taxpayers' money, the public protector has spoken quite clearly on that indeed the president would have not done that knowingly. The president has not been able to instruct people to do certain things in his homestead. But what is also worrying, Dan, is that all what comes out today, we've heard about it many months ago. There's been leaks, there's been politicking about it, there's been calls for impeachment of the president, yet the investigation was still on. I don't know what are the rights of the president at this instance, when then it appears that all what people have been talking about is what is in the report, and it has been leaked. The public protector itself at some point did concede about that, but what are the rights of the president around this time?
Okay, the report is now with the president. Of course, we understand he's got about 2 weeks, according to the public protector, for him to respond in parliament and comment on it. So there's still a process to go. But as a trade union federation, I mean, when you hear in a country where your own members are battling in terms of salaries, are battling with working conditions, are battling for jobs. I mean, job creation is a big thing. When you hear about such big amounts of money being spent on a single private residence, and then it's confirmed that apparently it's about 246 million we're talking about now, when originally it was supposed to be 27 million, and you hear about state officials are being alleged to have been behaving improperly, unethically. What do you say to that as Cosatu?
Of course, it's a matter that Cosatu has always been heard loud, calling for action against corruption where such is identified. And as it does appear in this case that greater levels of corruption involving contractors and government officials has indeed occurred, that we expect stern action to be taken against those that are found guilty to have done such things. But also those who have deliberately omitted procedures leading into the quagmire where the state president may be finding herself in at this moment. We expect that action should be taken against those found to be responsible.
How do you respond to the fact that President Zuma could have contained the cost when the story first broke in 2000? And we know at the time the government was denying when the whole story started in 2009. Don't you think the president could have said, hey guys, can we just check this project properly and make sure that the costs are within reasonable limits?
I think that is an unfair call from the public protector, because this is a state security function. They dictate their terms, and how can then the president say, no, don't provide this security, or I don't think this is correct for my security.
I'm not saying the question I'm making, Mr. Dlamini, is yes, we understand as the president of the country, like any head of state anywhere in the world, they're entitled to security, and every other president, including the late President Mandela and the former President Thabo Mbeki, were afforded that. I'm just saying that couldn't he have ensured that it didn't escalate to 246 million?
Yeah, but you are not saying then they were in charge of their own security upgrades. They were not in charge. We don't hear anything from the public protector suggesting that. And it would be unfair to expect that Zuma should have then said, don't do this, do that in my security arrangements.
Okay, what would Cosatu like to hear from the president now? The report is out, it's in his court to respond. If you were advising him as your tripartite alliance partner, what would you say to him he should do now?
We expected that question would come at some point. At a time of elections, we are just less than 2 months before the election day. We have questioned also the delays in the release of the report. For then a call, as we hear others will be calling for impeachment, I think we shouldn't all run into the trap of the moment of politics. We should be saying what are the lessons to be learned out of this. We should be saying how do we ensure that the taxpayers' monies are spent properly in the country? How do we ensure that the rules, the procedures are followed, but not just follow procedures. Those who are at the helm of implementing decisions should be conscious about how do they protect taxpayers' monies. Okay,
Mr. Dlamini, very briefly, while I have you on another matter altogether. Yesterday, we saw the National Union of Metal Workers, Numsa, marching against the Youth Wage Subsidy. They're not happy with the Employment Tax Incentive Act, which you yourselves, Cosatu, support. Numsa, as far as I know, is still part of the federation. What do you say to their latest demonstrations?
Look, firstly, let me congratulate Numsa for having pulled out a significant action, marching obviously with the other political parties, including the EFF and other social movements. Those issues are very important issues in our country. It is Cosatu issues. It's the same issues we marched for at the end of the year. But what we must condemn and discourage in this type of a march is a unilateral action outside the bounds of Cosatu protocols to lead that march.
What are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about that?
Look, it's a poisonous environment we are in. We have rules, they are being broken. They allow the General Secretary of Cosatu, who is suspended, to address a march in Durban. They allow the suspended teachers president to lead a march in the Eastern Cape. It's the environment where people are using every trick to mobilize and gain public sympathy just to get us move away from the real issues we're dealing with. It's a matter we're going to be continuing to discuss internally within the Federation.
Know more. ENCA.com